down. The reason that I used my foot was just because with all this activity around here, sometimes the dogs are, you know, a little bit distracted. And I just wanted to show you, if you start having circumstances where you say down and he doesn't do that, or he seems like he's ignoring you, it's not because he can't do it, it's just because maybe there's too much going on, and so you do exactly what I did, and it's just never repeat the command. And it always gets better if you do that. You know that your last couple of days, your down has been a little bit spotty, not as good as you want it to be. Just for a couple of days, do it like this. Down. Just assume that he's not going to do it when you say it, and it's just like a tune-up, but you do it simultaneously with the movement. You don't say it, wait for him to ignore you, and then force him down, because you'll get stuck in that pattern forever. So it happens all at once, and then you'll see you'll be able to take the foot away, and he'll just go there. See how all this stuff is going on? He's just like looking at me. And yeah, you could say he wants a treat, but he's already eaten this morning, so he's not starving. He just wants to work and he wants to earn, and we practice this every day. So in his mind, hey, I'm working. I have a purpose in life, and I get paid for it, and it's fun. That's what he's thinking if he could talk. But make sure that every time you reward him, that he wait. No, see if he touches your hand because he's extra excited. Pull back. Good. Always make sure that he waits respectfully before, no. If he pops up like that because he's excited, you say no. And you gently but firmly put him back. Do that reset. If he swings around, make sure that, I mean, you could grab him and pull him back, or you could just do another reset to put him straight. Make sure he goes back exactly where he was before. Almost exactly where. But I was saying, make sure that you're always delivering the reward in a calm manner, and he's waiting for you to actually know, to actually withdraw, and then he takes it. And say good when he takes it, so it's good when he takes it. And I'm just going to finish this up with a little down stay. It's okay if he shifts his weight to be more comfortable when you walk around him. As long as he stays in his down, as long as his elbows were on the ground like that, that's fine right there. And then to release him, he's waiting for you to come back next to him. You say, okay. He's going to get up. You say, sit. And then always release him like this, out of a down, from a calm sit stay. See how I'm waiting and he's waiting? Go. And he's free. Now with him, one of the great advantages of practicing out in public in a place where there's a lot of distractions is that it makes him better wherever he goes after this with whatever the distractions are in his life. Could be, lots of people in and out of the house, could be children or something like that. So you're going to practice the same way with them as I am here. But with kids and people, what you do have to do is make sure that they can't touch him, and try to maybe, we're going to get out of the way of this cart, keep filming. Come on, buddy. Okay, come on. You can have the kids run around and walk around, but, not jump on him and stuff. Obviously, it'd be really hard for him to stay in a downstairs sit stay if they were petting him and touching him. So you can have him practice this in the middle of a living room or someplace like that, but just make sure that the distractions aren't on top of him, touching him, things like that. Okay? Okay, let's go. Sit. Big distractions here. And it's okay, he can look, but as long as he stays in a sit stay, that's what matters. I'm just practicing a basic sit stay where I walk around in both ways. And then if you're doing a sit stay in a place that it's difficult, he waits until you come back next to him, eye contact. Good, straight down like that. It's not like this and he eats like that, it's eye contact. Good, just like that. He's literally looking at you in the eyes as you do it. So you put it by your face like this. And good. 2 times in a row there was no food, so I'm going to do one last one with some food, with a treat. Good. Very powerful. It's a subtle thing. So much better than this or this, and he's looking that way. It's really easy to do. Nope. If he pops up out of a sit stay, you say no. Gently but firmly put him back. If you want all the stuff that you see that he has with me here, then do exactly what I'm doing, and you will have that. And then when releasing him out of a sit stay, like with the down, I can pat his chest and say go, which means he's free and he can do whatever he wants. Or if I'm still going to keep him on the clock and we're going to walk somewhere else, it's okay. Okay, and then we walk. Okay, here we go. Sit. Always walk him up to the person, have him sit. He's very excited. He really likes this person. I can tell. I step away from him. He stays in a sit stay. I'm going to send him over, and you just give him the treat. You can pet him with the other hand, though. So he's waiting. You always have him on a loose leash. See, when I tighten the leash, it made him want to go. So instead of doing that, if he does jump the gun, you tap and release. But it's always loose. No. Go say hi. He gets a treat, he gets petted. Come, call him back to me. If you were having any jumping issues on people or little kids or anything like that, you always have sit. You always have the recall. And he's always on a leash when you're doing a greeting routine. And this would be a great exercise to practice just with your family, just with the kids and anybody else that he knows. And he's always so happy to see everybody, of course. So you practice this stuff with people that he knows just around the house, and this will help him get calmer as well. Go say hi. Come. See how when I call him to come to me, good. It's that whole thing, the right hand target, good. And you see me do it throughout the videos a couple different times. And I step into him and I do a complete little do-over sit, not a do-over, but kind of like a reset circle with my body, step into him. A really important move to do. We're just going to do one more time. And then I'm throwing in a sit stay, like all these things that I do, and he has to like keep it together, stay calm. It's not time yet. I'm waiting for the end, so I'm having self-control, and I'm waiting. This is training his brain to stay calmer for longer. Nope. See how he's wanting to jump the gun? Make sure he waits. Go say hi. You can pet him. Pet him. Good. And this happens with most of the dogs because I always call them back within like 5 seconds or so. They'll just run back to you, and if they start to jump, usually when they get to this point, it'll trigger them to run back to you because they know that when they start to feel like they want to jump, they go back to you, which also that gets them out of trouble with people. So just keep doing this greeting routine. It really helps your overall training, and I think that he's just going to get better and better at this if you keep practicing. Just real quick, just even though you've seen me do it throughout the video several times, the way that I practice the recall, left hand leash, the right hand is free to grab the reward. I always do it the same way. I only do it this way, so that way, you know, if you just do it one way, it becomes like second nature and you don't have to think about it anymore. There's no, you know, struggling with the leash, and there's none of this. It's just, you let it hang. If it's too long, you lift up your arm. So don't worry about it touching the ground anyway if it does. But you need that 6 feet, because if you're practicing on this regular leash, at least you need the 6 feet to call him away, to you. You have to have some sort of distance where he's away from you so you can call him to you. So left hand leash, right hand reward, and a target fist. Come. Good. Your hand is free, your left hand, you grab the leash, you have him. If it's an emergency and he doesn't have the leash on, then and you don't have a treat, pretend like you do. He'll always come to it. Good. And you hook your hand under the blue collar that never comes off of him, because that has his tags on it, so you never take that collar off. And you just make sure that when he comes to you, he's always used to staying there and doing something with you, even if it's just you saying good boy and kissing him and hugging him and all that, but that he never gets used to taking the treat and running off again. And that could happen, especially with him. Come, like if I didn't take the leash, good, and I didn't hook my hand under the collar, a lot of dogs will get used to grabbing the treat and then running off again. So make sure that you always grab the leash. If there's no leash, grab the collar. Always back away, because when you back away, it draws the dog to you, and he'll go wherever you want him to go. Good, and I didn't even have a treat in there. That's how many times I've called him to come to me. He has no idea why he loves to come to this. So you keep on doing exactly what I'm doing here, and it'll trigger him to just click into this behavior, because you're doing exactly what I did. So just those are all the reasons for doing that. Always back away when you're practicing on a leash, because when you don't have a leash and your back's to a wall and you don't have a treat, he'll still come running, because all he knows is the last several hundred times you practiced with him, which you could do hundreds of times every month if you practice for a couple minutes a day. The last few hundred times, all he knows is that he rushed to you because of the way you practiced with him. It's because of the way that you taught him is why he'll always run to you when you can't back away. So make sure you always do that when you practice. Okay. Okay. Sit. Walk him up to the mat. Have him sit. With your right hand, make sure he waits. If he pops up before you release him, you just tap it like that, and he'll go back. See how he's waiting? Make sure he waits. He doesn't mess with your hand. Go to your mat, walk over with him and say down. If he doesn't go straight down, just do that with your foot. And then you get to practice a little downstay. And I've worked up to doing this with him for about 5 minutes a day. And I always start out doing just a basic downstay like that, where I walk around, practice walking around both ways. The reward of the actually delivering of the reward is very important, because you have to keep him calm on this mat. Good, and so deliver it very slowly and very calmly. And actually it works so much best if you swing in like this. Good, instead of coming from above, because some dogs can get triggered, especially when they go back home, if their owners are going like this. So just always reward like this, whatever you do, wherever you go when you come back. Always reward from in front. Swing in, put it on his mat. Good, he gets that. And then, that basic downstay is where I always start, and then I start doing more. Like in this case, I'm going to walk around and maybe go over here, try something over here. And this is to go out here. If you're ever going to do something that you think might be difficult for him, it helps him a little bit just when you're teaching him something new to remind him what to keep doing. So before I do this, I'm going to say down. Because obviously there is no stay. We never use stay. We don't have to. And then disappearing out on the street and seeing if he will stay there till I get back. Wow, that's a good downstay. Because this is the gate that they always chase us to when we leave, and they always run up to meet us when we come in. So that's why it's a great place to practice, but he can't possibly do that. I told him down, and he knows he only leaves that downstay when I come back and release him in a very specific way. So he gets a big piece for that. Good. Extra big reward for that. Let's try something else that might be hard for him. I'm going to go behind him, so I'm going to go over here. This is usually extra hard, because when you do something from behind them, it's harder for them to focus. And I'm going to say down. And he's got an extra distraction over there. The camera person went over there. But see, it's okay if he turns to look, he turns his head, but as long as he doesn't turn his body. He's doing very well. And of course, you see the result of practicing this here. on the sequences where we're out in public and how his downstay is with tons of distractions everywhere. It's because we practice it this way, good, with no distractions, to teach him the way that it goes, and then we started adding distractions, making it harder and harder and harder for him. He used to pop up when I tried to do a walk around downstay, but gradually we taught him to stay when I did that, and then I just started adding things every day or every few days to see what he could handle, and then working through each one of those gradually. And now he's got a real solid downstay in the presence of a lot of distractions in the real world, which is the other clips on this out at the store there, which you'll see. The way to take him off is to stand back next to him, pat your leg and say, okay. He'll get up, walk him off, have him sit, say sit. I think he's excited about the camera person. He wasn't thinking. So if you're never going to repeat the command. If you say SIT and he doesn't do it, you just hold him with a little bit of pressure. If he's stuck, like he kind of got stuck there, forgot what to do, I just touched his rump and he went down. All he knows, he heard it once and he ended up going there. So never repeat a command. Always do it gently but firmly. But as soon as you're done, as soon as his butt hits the ground, you release that, and then with your right hand, pat his chest and say go, and he's free. Sit. Always walk him up to the crate, have him sit. Lean over, open the door. You have your leash in your left hand. If he tries to race in there, you just tap it and say no. Not that he did, but that's what you would do if he wants to rush in there. He loves going in his crate. If you ever have an issue putting him in the crate, because sometimes when the dogs go back home, they're trying to test you and they'll put on the brakes and won't go in, you can always just take a little reward and say go, and send him in with that flourish with a treat. And that usually breaks the ice, and then a couple days the dog goes in without the treat. Now, when after you send him in the crate, it's really easy to take off his equipment if you have to, like if it's at night and you're done with the training, or he's going to be in there for a few hours. Just take off his training collar and the choke chain. And I always, give him a treat before I close the door. I always want him to love being in the crate, and the way to make sure that he does is to always have some very positive interaction with him at every step of the way. Treats when he goes in, treats before you close the door, treats when you're going to reach your hands in to take off or put on this equipment. You can hang the training collar right there so it doesn't get tangled up in itself, and the leash and the choke chain can be, on top of the crate or wherever you want to put it. The choke chain is always doubled up on the training collar because sometimes those prong collars will come off, and if it does out in public, you're clipped to this choke chain that always hangs loose, but the other collar comes off, and this comes into play, and you don't lose him out on the street. You never use this for training because this is very dangerous. It could really hurt his throat because it closes all the way. There's no safety. It's just this chain that would tighten around his neck. These prong collars, and this is a bigger one. A smaller size would be better to use, more effective, easier for you to handle him. But they only close so far. They're fitted to the size of his neck, so they'll only close so far. As long as you use it the way that we're using it in the videos, which is very light, a light touch. You're never struggling. You never have a tight leash. You'll never get injured with these, and it's just like it's power steering on your dog, which I say all the time. So at our house, he sleeps every night in the crate. He gets his bones and chewies in the crate. Everything good happens in there in his mind. It's his den. Dogs are naturally den animals, so he loves being in there. He's in and out of the crate all the time during the day here, but he's very used to this routine. And overnight, we have blankets in there, and he sleeps overnight in the crate. This is an extra large crate, but we have his crate is in there. It was easy to bring this one out. He is in a Great Dane crate, it's a super size. It's the next size up, and I think you have that at your house as well. So make sure that you always follow this rule of how to put him in. Try to only put on and take off his equipment when he's inside, because if he if he gets used to that, then later on you can take it off and put it on anywhere. But right now, you could easily get back into that thing where he's really excited, he's going to go on a walk, and you struggle with him, and he falls over, and you have to struggle, and that's really bad for the overall training. So you don't want to do that. Just see how calm he is when he's in there, and I'm going to put it on now and show you, of course. Open the door, make sure that he stays in there until you release him, and he's usually really good about that. He gets a reward for not bursting through across the boundary. Take this little training collar, attached to the leash already, just reach in there by feel, hook it up, and let's see, put this choke chain on as well. Slip it over his head. He's just standing there waiting for me to do it. There's no craziness, there's no excitement. It's because this is all we ever do here, and he has multiple people every day doing this. So he's very used to only doing this, having his equipment being put on and taken off in there. And so he just sits there and allows us calmly to do it. And that's what you should keep doing for a while. And he won't come out because this is more boundary training, like the front door, like the gate, like the curbs. It's the same thing. And he gets a reward when he doesn't come out. If he tries to come out, you might have to stand close to the crate at first if you don't have this right away and say no. He'll know what that means. Then when he waits, treat. Keep stepping a little bit farther back until you're like this. Good. And you don't have to do this every time, but it's just something, maybe do that once a day. Just a great boundary training exercise. And he's waiting until you say, okay, pat your leg, he comes out. Always close this door. If you leave it hanging open and he can go in and out at will, then he will, you squander your power of the crate, which is to control his access in and out. And just doing this one thing very carefully and do it according to our rules, strictly exactly the way you saw it here, can change a dog's perception of you rather than letting him just go in and out of his crate randomly, not having him sit and wait, not having him wait until he's allowed out, and just saying like, go crate or whatever, and he runs in. Every dog can do that. That's not a big deal. But this is actually a tool for training, and it's actually a training routine that helps him get better and calmer and actually helps him perceive you in a better way, in a way that he starts looking at you more as the person in charge rather than just fairly irrelevant. Okay. Ready? Good. Sit. You always have him sit before you take him through any doorway, especially a doorway that comes out into public or outside your house. Okay, sit. I'm just doing it with him really close to the threshold so you can see. You're doing this all day long whenever he goes in and out, when he's on a leash at least. And he has to force himself to be calm and focus and wait. See, when I step out like that, you're accentuating the fact that he never races through with you unless you allow him, and he doesn't race. He has to be respectful and okay, walk through with you. Now, if he does, launch forward like that, all you do is a little tap, just like that. He's very excited. Camera person there, okay, which he's never experienced, somebody pointing something at him while we're doing this. But he loves everybody and he loves him, of course. But, okay, sit. This boundary stuff is really important. And every time I take him out, it's waiting here, it's waiting at the gate, it's waiting at the curb. And when you start the walks like this, you just have a much calmer walk. And then you do it on the way in as well. And basically a much calmer day with him because you're waiting at all the boundaries and he has to stop and wait and think. And it teaches him self-control. And over time, every day you're doing these little things. It takes you an extra couple of minutes in stopping in all these different places. And it is your training. So you don't let him pull you through race through all these boundaries, because that is when the training needs to happen, is when you're actually taking him through gateways and across curbs and things like that. And it's so easy. You have to go through those boundaries anyway in a day with him. And so why not just do it in the way that you want it to be, and that is your training. So you don't have to have like a whole training session separate from that. You have to go through those boundaries anyway, so just do it the right way. That makes him better and better. See how calm he is? He's already set up to go through the other boundaries because he knows what we're about to do. That's another thing. If you do this every day, he starts expecting what he's going to do and anticipating how it's going to go down, and he'll put himself in that calm state of mind. Every day you do it, he's a little bit calmer because of just the way you're handling him in and out of the house and on the walk. Okay. Sit. Sits and waits. He's very used to this. This is what he does at this gate. It's the only thing he's ever done at this gate. Okay. This is where we come out into public here, onto the street. There's always stuff going on here. If he wants to launch forward and pull, just do your taps. But you're always starting off on your terms. He waits. You step through. He waits. You come back next to him. He loves to come outside. He loves to go places. So you might have to tap him a little. But you see how he is when you're not doing this and you're not starting the walk off like this, which you may not even notice. A lot of people have done it for so long they don't notice they're doing that. When you're starting with a loose leash and you use your body and you tap and you use your body, it stays loose, the dog stays way calmer. It's just better overall. And this calmness takes over his whole life over time, but it has to be continued wherever he goes. When he leaves here, he knows the system, but it still takes a human to implement the system, because if somebody's not doing it this way, then he'll just do what he used to do before, because basically it's like a car that the driver doesn't know how to drive the car. So somebody's got to drive him and do this with him, and then you'll see him get way calmer over the days and weeks ahead. Okay. Sit. Big boundary for most dogs. They usually want to just pull their person across the street. That's why we always practice this with every dog. Gateways, doorways, the threshold part, and before and after the threshold, curbs, all calm zones now. Not red zones where they get excited and they rush through. The opposite now. Calm zones between here and the other side, okay, is a calm zone. I mean, if you had to run across the street, that's different, but usually you won't have to because you're going to wait until the traffic's clear. You won't walk this slow, but I'm just illustrating. Watch out, there's a car there, stay there. What you would do, I'm going to do a little circle here, stay there. But see, I'm exaggerating the slowness. See how he'll just stop and you slow down? Okay. He knows he'll react differently when you handle him this way. And see how he wanted to kind of surge forward? Keep coming now. And the way that I do it every day, sit once I did my front door, my gate, my front curb, cross the street, come to this side, now the walk starts. And if I hadn't been doing this video, it would have taken me probably 1 minute to do it. Go, and you release him to be free, and your walk gets to start like this. Because you're consistently doing this every time you take him for a walk. He starts the walk on the inside of your front door on the leash, just exactly like we just showed you. And it has to be done this way by whoever's going to do that. So it might take a little bit of practice, but if you do it this way, this will go to your right and show that dog. Pan to your right. So does he have a problem with dogs on a leash on the street? See him? Show him. He sees a dog. Now show that and pan back to me. So the dog's there and show me. Come on, back to me. See him? Good. He sees a dog now. He sees a dog, he looks back at me. Good. I don't know if you had issues or if you have issues on the street with other dogs or distractions, but all this stuff ties in together. What I did do for a while when I first started training him was he'd look at a dog or a distraction, whatever it was, and I'd say, come. And he'd come running back to me, and then over time, he's such a smart dog. He's taken to the training so well. Before I could even reach in to get a treat or say, come, he's already looking back at me, and I would just say, good, which is ideally the way this is supposed to work every time. So it's so you do it consistently the same way every time, so that over time you don't have to do the training anymore, because that's his new pattern of the way he does things, and that's just the way he does it. Just like seeing the dog on the street and looking away. You need to be there. If you don't have a treat, be there, good, like that, and give him a reward for turning away from the distraction, not pulling towards it, but turning back to you, because distractions now lead back to you, home base, your home base. You're not his valet or whatever, however he perceived you, the irrelevant person that he drags around on the street. Now, you're calling the shots. Something comes up, he sees something, turns back to you, reward that so that pattern gets even stronger over time. So with the walk, the leash is always loose. If he goes to the end of the leash, you're going to tap it, just like that. So I hold the leash on my left hand. It's over my wrist, so I have both hands free. And there's no way, even if you're not looking his way and he goes to chase a cat under a car or something, you can't lose him because it's around your wrist. Do not do this. And do not be doing this, because a tight leash is everybody's worst enemy. It'll stress a dog out, make them overstimulated, overexcited, and then they behave badly because they're out of control, because they're overexcited and they can't handle themselves, and that's everybody's worst enemy. So it's always a loose leash. If he even starts to pull, once you've let him be free and you've started the walk, it's a tap and release. I can't get him to pull me because of the way I've been handling him with the come commands and the handling of the loose leash. He just always wants to be next to me. Also, one of those big moves, if he starts to jump, which he'll start doing that. Some people call it the zoomies, and he'll just run around, he'll jump because he's excited. He's after your hands when he stops jumping. Good, and if you have a treat, give him a treat. Reward him for the behavior that you want to see more of. That stuff happens, back away, hands go up because they're after your hands. You do this, and you start talking to them or pushing away, saying leave it, and off and down, and all these other things. Who knows what people say? You're going to feed it. He starts doing a behavior, and you start talking to him with an elevated voice and saying his name and all this stuff. He's getting attention for jumping, and it just gets worse. So if you're handling him and it's just you, that's how you handle that. You saw how it just kind of popped up a little bit. He gets more excited on the street because there's all these distractions, things going on. But you see, if you do the moves, how quickly it just ends. And then you want to reward him really well, so that the whole jumping or having excited moments get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, and these calm, wonderful moments where he's just sitting in front of you, looking at him, looking at you lovingly, they grow in length and take over his life because you're giving that attention. All the bad stuff, it's just like you back away. If the dog is like a pogo stick, let him finish his stuff. You're not connecting with him by talking to him and doing this and whatever you would do. Trying to control him with the leash, whatever. You need to disengage. He's going to stop and do this. Your hands are perfectly set up for the next move. Good boy. And even a little treat for that. Good is even better. Good boy. We want to see more and more of this. That other behavior dies out over time, and this grows in strength. Okay.